She ran out of the room when Lynn and the nurse got afraid. She stated she was killed before she departed, and I'll never forget that since I felt it when I was above my body. Her actions made me feel her feelings. Next movie character remarked it was time to leave. We left for this lovely place. Due of its beauty, words cannot do it justice. You might feel guilty in your life. You feel trodden on, stabbed, or shunned. That was not the case. It was more educational for me. Treating people better was my challenge. That kind of trauma takes time to comprehend. Thus, it took me almost 40 years to relate my story. Before that, money ruled. Wanted to advance. I wanted to be a millionaire by 32 alongside my brothers. That means you'll do anything to become one. After my encounter, I knew it wasn't about money. Basically, how you handled people. Again, money kept me away for 3 to 4 weeks at a period. I was selfish when I returned home for Christmas after 3 or 4 weeks. Again, money was key. I went skiing at Christmas after returning home. I phoned a friend and we skied in Park City, Utah. Beautiful day. I've never seen such snow. Nothing beats fresh powder for skiing. I was bragging in the lift line at 11 a.m. about how well we turned, jumped, and handled the mogul heading down the mountain. From the corner of my eye, I noticed a young woman skiing down with poles everywhere and running into us in the lift queue. She was helped up and disappeared for the day. We never considered the incident. After skiing all day, my EMT friend took my skis off when we got to the van at 4:30. My thumb was hanging straight down, my fingers were swelling, and my thumb was hanging to my wrist when I removed my glove first, then my left. I discovered the accident that day was worse than I expected. It's intact while your fingers are in gloves. It was cold that day, despite the brilliant skies and beauty. It remained cold and sad. After removing the glove, my EMT friend replied, "I can't fix that with a Band-Aid." My wife Connie had everything ready when we arrived at the hospital. Things were great. They welcomed me, capped me, and wheeled me down the hallway. I thought of something without telling my wife. I didn't say I love her or my child. They put me on the table as I entered. When called out on another patient, the anesthesiologist remarked, "You know, that's not a problem. I've done this brachial block procedure before. It's like walking." Now they trapped me. To keep me from seeing them operate, they put a sheet and tourniquet on my arm. 2 valves were on after they elevated my arm. After closing the 2 valves, they lower the arm and shoot a local in your region of operation. After 15 or 20 minutes, I felt a lot of pressure in my arm, and the doctor told her to release one of the valves, which provides you pressure. Later, the pressure rose again, and the nurse was supposed to close the first valve and open the second. I felt the drug flow up my arm, across my chest, and into my heart since she opened the second valve without closing the first. Next, I realized I was being pulled out of my body and seeing the surgery from above. It felt strange now. Let's start with one truth as I walked down the table. I lied. Why did I lie there instead of standing? And the feeling was different. As the doctor operated on me, I was most concerned. All his tools were clearly visible on the table. Each was lined up. They then viewed a machine. It was a cardiac monitor. They flatlined. Absolutely no bumps, just flatlined. The nurse fled in fear. She claimed to have killed me before leaving. Since I was above my body, I'll never forget that feeling. Her actions made me feel her feelings. After she left, numerous others hurried in and tried to revive me. The doctor was diligent and kept working, which was unusual. Then I saw someone standing next to me. I don't know who that was. I'll recognize the voice when I hear it again, but they were behind me on an angle so I couldn't see him. While this individual was communicating to me in my thoughts, I kept looking at my body, wondering why. It appeared lifeless. It appeared to be merely. The thing was dead. The best I can say. The individual next to me said to leave. We left for the most gorgeous place known. Describing it is impossible. It was too beautiful to describe. The field in front of and to my right was grass. The grass was unusually tall, reaching my waist. Long green grass strands with gold accents. I noticed the grass rushing toward me. Since there was no breeze, it was only that happened. Each strand has its own soul and energy. I had never experienced anything like that. Wildflowers of various colors were to my left. All the flowers were facing me, though. Since every leaf on that lawn faced me, I felt the love and vitality from the surroundings again. I'm talking multicolored flowers. We observed 6 hues on Earth. I saw 11 and indescribable colors. They looked gorgeous. Tall trees were left of the blooms. At the top of the trees were brilliantly colored leaves. Later, I observed that my surroundings were more panoramic. I could see far to my left and right, yet my escort was still at my side. I thought he told me not to look back. He urged, "Don't look back," and I opted not to because it was so apparent. The clouds in front of me were 3 different shapes, like one huge one in the middle and 2 smaller ones on the sides. But outside the clouds was the brightest blue sky I'd ever seen. It was like everything was flowing even though there was no wind. As indicated, the grass and flowers flowed toward me. After looking around, I saw that my companion was gone. Over the previous 40 years, I've noticed that thinking about being alone causes anxiety. Why am I alone? I didn't feel that. It felt like receiving love. I was so serene I didn't want to go because it was new. I wasn't proud of what happened next. I had a life review, and I empathize with those who have had them. Because you live it, not just see it on a screen or in your thoughts. From birth to 28 years old, you lived every feeling. I imagined being on my mother's stomach. After being born, I'll never forget how I damaged others. When you want money and status, you do virtually everything to get ahead. I played professional basketball in Europe, and you always wanted to be a little better than the other person because that was sometimes enough to advance. So I was good at it, and that carried over into my business life. Before my life review, I didn't realize how the other person felt when I did something immoral to get ahead. During a life review, you might feel guilty, trodden on, stabbed, or disciplined. That was not the case. It was more educational for me. Treating people better was my challenge. I noticed everything, but I didn't see my riches, better homes, yachts, toys, or automobiles. My treatment was all I saw. This has certainly been one of my largest life experiences, trying to comprehend how people feel about what I'm saying and listening, because everyone's reality is different. After reviewing my life, I said, okay, I did it. I didn't have anyone to debate with and couldn't explain why. Did it, accepted it. I understood after standing there for a few minutes and analyzing what had happened that everything in my evaluation was done with purpose. I realized I may have been chastised. I was acting like someone could have struck me or placed me in a cage. Not done that way. It felt like someone was trying to teach me how to live. And I agreed. I took full responsibility. Everything was black and white, right and bad, with no barrier. There was no gray, as if you should have done it this way. I was standing there when a voice from the clouds stated, "We start walking forward," and I started walking. I realized that rays from behind the clouds were coming at me as if to lure me toward the cloud. However, the flowers and grass followed me, perhaps pushing me toward the cloud. I had never felt such energy. I was walking toward the cloud, but it felt like they were pushing me and the rays were dragging me. I don't know whether you've ever had someone's energy surround you. I was never told I was loved in my family. I grew up in Brooklyn and often felt lost in the streets. I had never felt that kind of love before, but it felt nice. I would have taken anything because it felt so nice. I approached that cloud, and an arm, not a person, came through. Studying the Lin from top to bottom was possible. His upper forearm was powerful. At 63 and 270 pounds, I'm large, but his arms were bigger. I recall looking at his palm of hand and thinking he was reaching for mine. In addition, I didn't see any color in that hand or arm, which was uncommon because where we live, we see black, white, brown, red, and the color of people's hands and arms. Due to its purity, it was the most beautiful hue I could describe. I came within inches of taking that hand into that cloud, and his illustrations had a new vigor. I was so close to holding that hand, and I knew I'd never return. After the arm pulled back, I tried to grip it again, and a voice came through the clouds. They add, "It's not yet your time. You have work to do." Finished after that NDE. Returning to my body, I laid on the table with a sheet over my head. A paper on my chest stated that I had been dead for 20 minutes. A death certificate was completed. Flipping the cover off my head startled the doctor and nurses half to death. We passed the waiting room while wheeling me out. My wife was sitting there, unaware of what was happening. The doctor ran to her and said, "He's okay. Everything went well." We brought him back. My wife saw something else than I did. She saw fear. What am I going to do if my husband dies? And saw things differently. I saw beauty. No, I didn't want to return. Learning is why I was sent back. I had to learn something new, but I was selfish. It was stunning. I was at peace for 3 days, and all I want in life is to do better than what I reviewed. We learn throughout life. I learned that from experience. After death, life continues. Though I had a near-death experience, I believe in life after death. While standing at that cloud, I felt people on the other side. I sensed it. I felt like they were waiting for me through the cloud. It's unclear if they'll beat me up, cheer me on, or do anything else, but I hope they'll cheer me on next time. I also learned that if there's an afterlife, there's a life before this one. It seemed odd, yet I know we came from somewhere. We're here to learn and will likely continue to study in the next life. Do I know? No. Am I feeling it? I feel it. It's fascinating that as humans, we tend to go back into our old behaviors. About 10 years after my life-changing shock at 28, we humans tend to drift back into our old behaviors. We were struck by lightning while golfing with a friend 10 years after I was struck. Lightning victims are rare to talk to. It shocked me. My friend's back exploded. He stated lightning caused smoke to come out of my brain. I left him after many back operations. I didn't leave thinking, I got hit by lightning, and I walked away from it. I left thinking, I got it all right. Sometimes it takes a guy 2 or 3 times to realize they made a mistake and need to rectify it. I'm 70 and still learning. There will be a day when I may not reach one of the just, but I hope I have a better report. You can change and go forward right now. Everyone who reads this book or watches the movie should learn that you can change no matter where you are. Any humans are wonderful. I enjoy just smiling. A grin can improve someone's day. I'm learning, but not flawless. We founded the Scott Foundation to do this and come out about it. We're putting a lot of earnings into this foundation for special needs children, but there are expenses like producing books and making movies. Since starting this foundation, we've noticed it affects the whole family, including the parents. We're aiming to brighten these families' lives. We've had more fun with the foundation than people know me for, so I wanted to share that.